Right then guys, so during this video, or the next few videos even, we're going to be looking at some different rendering techniques. Now if we were in school doing this, I'd be giving you a sheet that had some different templates on it, but obviously with us doing this at home, you're just going to need to set up your own sheet. So you're going to need some plain A4 paper and a pencil, okay? You're just going to draw 4 random shapes, alright? So it can be squares, triangles, it can be whatever you want. I'm going to draw some random blobs. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 4 just random shapes there. Okay, so we're going to do 4 different rendering techniques. I'm going to use one of each of these shapes at each different one. All right, and we're going to practice these on these random shapes first, and then obviously hopefully when we get back into school, we can then start putting these into practice when we start creating our own graffiti tags. Okay, so each one of these videos that you're going to watch is going to show you a different rendering technique on a different shape. Okay, so we'll start off with this top shape on the left. And we're going to start by adding a glow, okay? Quite a simple rendering technique, quite an effective one. Probably one of my favourites because I think it works quite well. So for this, you are going to need, obviously, some different colouring crayons, okay? I've obviously got some at home here, so I'm going to be using these blue and green for this task. If you haven't got any crayons at home at all, okay, and it can't be felt tips or anything because you can't sort of vary the layers with them. You can just use pencil, okay? It obviously won't look as effective or as, I don't know, as aesthetically pleasing or as pretty, but you can still work on the technique and get that right. So obviously when we go back into school, you know how to do that technique, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a base colour to this actual shape. So I'm going to use my green. I'm just going to colour in the overall shape, okay? Now I'm going to do this very quickly just to get this... so you're not sat around waiting. You'll notice that I'm using the side of the lead pencil, I'm holding it towards the edge. Don't go over your lines or anything, but just start off by adding that block of colour. Okay, so while I'm doing this, you could be setting up your page with your 4 shapes, or if you've already done that, you can start adding colour to yours as well. So I'll shut up for a minute while I colour this in. One thing you'll notice is that I'm not moving the page. That's purely because, obviously, if I move it, it will go out of shot. I suppose I can rotate it a bit, okay? But it does make your life a lot easier to move the page around instead of trying to move your hand in all of these awkward directions. So if you move the page around, it'll make your life a bit easier. There we go, that'll do. Now if this was going to be some sort of final presentation piece or, you know, some sort of higher standard of work as opposed to just practicing, I would expect a lot more obviously effort with this, okay, in terms of making sure that we're going in the same direction with the pencil strokes, make sure that we've got a nice even layer of colour all the way through. We've not got any sort of rough patches or darker patches, but just for this, because it's practicing, that'll do. Okay, hopefully you can see that on the camera okay. So I've got my green base layer. Now, the next part of this is the actual technique itself. So this is just our object. This is whatever it is we're drawing. So obviously when we come to school, it'll be the graffiti tag. And I'm going to use the blue to add a glow around this to make it look like it is glowing, to make it sort of lift it off the page a bit. Because at the minute we've just got this object on a white background. It doesn't look that effective. It doesn't stand out that much. So with the glow, the closer to the image, the darker you want the colour, and then as you get away from the image, you want the colour to almost fade out, okay, exactly like a glow would. So I'm going to start off just by going very finely around the outline of the shape, and I'm putting on quite a bit of pressure. You'll notice that I'm holding the crayon more like a pen now, as opposed to holding it at the end, a bit sort of further down the pencil, and that lets me put a bit more pressure on and have a bit more sort of control over where I'm going with it. So Again, I'm going to do this very quickly for you. So I've got almost like a solid outline of the shape now with my blue crayon, okay? And what I need to do then is, the further I get away from this shape, the lighter I want it to go. So I'm going to go back towards sort of holding the end of the pencil. I'm just going to lightly go around the outline again, but with a bit less pressure, and sort of going a bit further away from the shape as well. And the reason this is a good shape to practice on is because obviously we've got these outer curves where it's going to be going around this way, and then we've got these sort of internal curves as well. So quite a good way to practice, because obviously when you're doing your graffiti, depending on what letter you're doing, there will be internal and outer, internal and external corners, curves. There we go. I don't know how I can see it on the camera if I just hold it up a bit so it's easier for you to see. Oop, there we go. At the minute, it sort of goes from that dark outline that we've got going around the shape to then just a really fat faded line. It doesn't really transition from the dark to the light. It doesn't look like a glow. It looks like there's two separate things there. So what we're going to do now is try and blend those two, the darker outline to the lighter outline, to make it look like it is going from one to the other, and it just looks like the colour is fading out. So we end up with that glow effect. And all I'm doing to do this is going over multiple times in different areas where I think it needs a bit more colour. I can adjust my pressure if I think it needs more colour, or take pressure off if I think it needs less. Again, this is just a practice. I'm not expecting you to be amazing at this first time. Okay, some of you obviously might have had a go at this before, but practice does make perfect, and you'll start to see that the more you do this, the better control you'll get with your pencil or your crayon, and the better you'll actually be able to produce this technique. So hopefully you can see the difference that we've got here, where this is with the glow, where we've added that sort of blend in, and then here we've got just a dark outline and a very sort of light fade, and this is what we're aiming for around this corner, and obviously we want it to go all the way round. Like I say, the way that we're going to blend these, just adding more layers on, so going over again in patches where we think we need to go over a bit more, and by adjusting the pressure that you're putting onto your crayon. So obviously the harder you press, the darker the colour you get, and the lighter you press, the lighter the colour. these sort of last little faded bits in there, just really lightly with the crayon. And there we go, so that's your glow. Now the last thing that we're going to do to this is I want to show a definition between the actual object itself, which is my green blob shape here, and the glow that's going on. Now, if you've got a fine liner at home, fantastic, you can use that. If not, just get mine out. Just normal black biro will do, okay? So just make sure this one works. Lovely stuff. And all I'm going to do, now I've drawn my shape, I can go over it with this black biro pen, and it'll add a bit of definition to the edge of the shape, and again, just help it stand out a bit. Now I'm going to take my time with this because I don't want it to look all wispy and sort of sketchy. So just follow that outline. And again, move the page around, make your life a bit easier on yourself. Don't try and bend your arm and contort it in different ways. There we go. Okay. So that's the glow, the outer glow, with a bit of fine lining as well. And you can see the difference it makes. Obviously, we've still got these 4 shapes here that haven't got anything on them yet. The difference between them, just by adding colour with 2 crayons and obviously altering the way that we're putting the colour on, the pressures that we're using, makes a huge difference. Okay, so that's your first one for you.